meeting in order. Madam Clerk, I'll get you to call the roll.
Mr. Art Graham.
Here.
Mr. David McGraw.
Here.
Ms. Frances Pawlowski. Here. Mr. Jeff Jones.
Here.
Mr. Gary Paytow.
Here.
Okay, so let's skip down the agenda to old business. Madam Clerk, cash flow projections. Please
Yes.
speak to us.
I will have our CFO, Ms. Gossett, come up. She came to just kind of address the cash flow projections with you guys, answer any questions, and I believe she brought an additional handout or two to give to the group.
Okay.
Good afternoon. I brought a handout for today. What I have to show y'all today is the property values in the two CRA districts from their inception to this year. So in the conversation about cash flows, I thought this would be a beneficial piece of information for y'all to have. So you guys were presented with the cash flow last month, and I'm sorry I could not attend the meeting, but I'm here today to answer any questions y'all might have about them.
Any questions?
Actually, in looking at both the summaries, at the bottom, we've got the ending fund balance that's remaining. I'm assuming that all of that, since we have to allocate the dollars on a yearly basis to projects, that we basically end up with zero at the end of the year. They have to be, those dollars are allocated somewhere, right?
Yeah, so what you're looking at in front of you is the cash flow kind of where we landed with cash in the prior year and where our projected revenues and expenses are going to be for the next 10 years. And then at the end of every fiscal year, you guys are looking at the ending cash balance and we're restricting it for specific projects.
Okay, but there's no way, like, at the end of 2022, we've got, and I'm looking at downtown, we've got roughly $22.6 million. So somewhere that's allocated to other projects, but do we have information as to what specifically it's allocated to?
That I do not have with me because we're still incurring expenses throughout this year, so I don't know exactly where the cash is going to land. But the projects that you recently approved, any encumbrances remaining with those will be restricted at the end of this year.
So really, it's not an ending fund balance, what it really, it's what's allocated to CIP projects or.
So I guess it's kind of two different conversations maybe. Like this is your look forward of where we think the cash movement's going to be on the 10 years, and then at the end of every year we do a snapshot on September 30th and say, okay, we're holding 22.6 million, and of that 22.6 million, some of it we're restricting for work that you guys have already approved and is in progress, and some of it will be restricted for items that are in the 23 CIP plan.
Right.
And I can't tell you quite what that mix is going to be right now.
Okay, because you've got a nice summary on the next page about the capital outlays and how some of those dollars spread.
Yeah.
But when I look at the capital outlay dollars for 23, it shows 25 million, yet we only have an ending fund balance of 22 million, 22.6. So I'm just trying to rectify that in my head of,
Yep.
all of that's going to work out.
So if we take that kind of question, we're projecting that we're going to end fiscal 22 with $22.6 million. And so what I'll do is I'll look at the projects that you guys have approved, what we spent to date on them, and what's remaining of the project budget, and then we'll restrict that. And then I'll look forward into 23, and then I'll start picking off the list straight down the line. If we have $3.7 million left over, I'll restrict that for the projects 3 through 5. If we have another, well, it looks like projects 4 through 5 is $16 million. So it looks like I'll probably just get down to these two items. And then what we also want to keep in mind is we're going to have inflows in 2022 of $8.8 million in tax revenue. And so the 22.6, we're gonna add to it, the $8.8 million less the expenditures that are planned for the year.
Right. So we don't know that all of the items in the capital outlay list of 2023 are going to be able to be covered, is what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, with cash on hand, but we're gonna be receiving another $8.8 million. And so the projected ending balance in 2023 is $3.5 million, which means that we anticipate with the cash on hand and the cash we're gonna receive, we are fully funding our 2023 projects.
Okay, so you are anticipating at the end.
Yes.
That helps.
Okay.
That helps. Just looking at the south end budget, I guess I would, it shows that the tax funding, well, I guess it shows it at 50% tax funding, but in reality, isn't it more like 4 million that we're receiving and then we're returning to the taxing authorities, whatever that amount is, 2 million or 2.2 million? I mean, shouldn't it flow that way in the spreadsheet?
So we prepared the budget assumptions with a 50% reduction and return to the general fund. So when we look at the look forward, we're only anticipating what the fund is gonna receive, which is a net of $2.6 million.
Okay. You know, I guess I'm just looking at it a little bit differently, because I would think we'd be getting the 4 million or 5 million, and then we would be giving back to the taxing agencies the 2.2 or 2.3 million.
And you're right, that's what we're doing, but in terms of cash flows, we're really looking at that net revenue that we're projecting over the 10-year window.
And I guess the encumbrances are the same in this, you know, over the years here, as you look at the CIP program also, because there's been quite a bit more added to the South End CIP program. There's almost $23 million that got added based on public works projections and things.
Yes, sir. So the Public Works CIP plan is incorporated here, and I think the majority of what was in the plan amendment that was adopted by both the CRA and council is reflected here. And then as you can see with the 50% reduction, we're still accumulating funds over, you know, the 10-year window.
Yeah, except for the 2027, we're a little bit below the projection for the, you know,
Yeah.
balance that we should get for.
Yeah, so what we'll do is probably at the end of 2023 revisit that, and we might have to have a conversation about shifting a project into 2028 to smooth over the cash, or, you know, most likely is the property tax revenue might be favorable, and so it would become a non-issue. But yeah, so that's something that we noted at the end of the 5-year window. But I think we always kind of plan for a project and the cash flows to start and complete within the same year. That almost never happens. And so actually, we're probably gonna end cash a little bit higher than all these based on the timing of the projects.
Well, the other thing I think, I guess, from what I understand, that I would caution all of us just to be careful with is that it's my understanding that the capital outlay dollars are based on 2022 dollars. And if things continue the way they are and the way cost increases and so forth, we could see a significant bump in a lot of these numbers from a construction standpoint particularly.
Absolutely, and we've definitely seen that in the last 6 months, in the big responses that we've been getting.
And that'll be something we'll just have to keep a close eye on over the next couple of years and see how that works throughout our budget and be able to maintain the projects that we're hoping that we want to be able to do. Those are my questions, I think.
Anybody else? Jeff?
Okay, when we go to the downtown and, down at the bottom where it says Downtown Action Plan, Latham Plaza is not listed unless it's site furnishing plan.
I believe we're calling it the site furnishing plan, because that's the information that we had when we were working on.
Okay, then, that answers my question replenishing plan includes Latham Plaza and it includes the rest of the downtown, or at least the central part of the downtown, with bollards and trash cans and stuff like that. And we approved all that a year and 14 months ago.
Yeah.
And so why is that being delayed till 2024? I know we have to wait and we get new consultant and everything on Latham Plaza, but everything else has been approved already.
Yeah.
So why are we delaying it? It's already been delayed 14 months. Why is another 2 years going on?
So,
Heather's got her hand up.
Just I'm going to make sure I didn't just scream at you guys. And Taylor's going to talk a little bit more about this when we get to the end of the agenda. It's because a lot of the stuff you just mentioned, we were trying to do under 22. And as you guys know, we put a bid out on the street for the bike racks and several of the hardscape stuff downtown, and we didn't get any bites. So we've taken a different approach. And we still are making an effort to do that in 22. That's why it's not under that 23 budget. There isn't anything in there because we're still trying to do it in the 22 budget.
But, okay, so we are working, and if we get a vendor,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
we don't
Yeah,
have
no,
to wait
it's
till
not off the
2024
table.
to replace all those destroyed bollards.
It's still happening.
The
Yeah.
only thing we pushed up to 24 in my recollection of the budget was the actual construction dollars taxed to Latham Plaza.
Right.
So the actual physical construction redo, that's budgeted for FY 24, but the rest of this, like Heather said, we're trying to actually push some of this in through before October 1st of this year.
And is that included in the 4 million?
so if you're talking about bollard replacement,
And
I would
trash
say,
can and
yeah.
seating and stuff
Yeah.
like
So,
that?
but those minor things like the bollards and the trash cans, you guys have that maintenance dollars and CRA
Yep.
renovations, and so as you're coming across things that need to be addressed, you have spending dollars in your
Yep.
maintenance budget for that. But, I'll defer to y'all with that $4 million project encompasses.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we're still working actively on trash cans.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I
And
think
bike
you'll be really
racks,
happy
yeah.
at the end of this meeting, maybe.
Yes, we have
Maybe a
we
little
have some
happy, not really, but a little.
we have some updates on that, but that's why it's not listed there separately.
But yes, that is not being pushed off 2 years. That would be bad.
Yes.
Anybody else? Questions?
Alright, well, I'll just close with like, when you guys look at the property values, I think you guys should be kind of really proud of your efforts over the last several years, because you can see the tremendous rise in prices, which means like you're achieving your mission. You know, these have been really successful districts. So I commend you on the choices that you're making, the direction that you're giving.
This is where I bought all
This is
the way
also
down.
not a duplication, but it's just combining the two.
Yeah, so I haven't combined, that's the way I like to see them, but somebody said, oh, that's confusing for me, I don't know if they're cumulative or you're laying them over one another. And one of the things I do wanna point out about that is, yeah, when you talk about this is where you bought, that's where I bought too. So I spent the next 10 years like hoping for things to turn around. And so that's what I would caution with the 10-year cash flows, to Gary's point earlier. You know, we make the best plans possible, but, you know, we didn't anticipate inflation being as high as it is right now. And we certainly never anticipated this bubble burst in housing and taking 10 years to recover from it. So as much as, you know, the 10-year cash flows, we feel confident in them, there's always things beyond our control that will have, will cause us to reevaluate those numbers.
What's the source of it? Where did that come from?
The Duval Property Appraiser's Office. When we get our DR 420, our property tax revenue form in July, they put the values on it that they anticipate, and then they'll fix the values.
Does that take into account homestead?
Yes, yes it does. Which, that's a really good question. You know, we had the housing bubble burst around there, but then we also have a lot of homestead exemption additions.
Mm-hmm.
And so even though we were actively, you know, building all this stuff, it took a while. Yeah, yep.
Cool.
Alright.
I bought right there, but I just sold my mom's condo last month because it was the first time my house has dipped in value and since I bought it. So I think we're at the top.
Well, thank you all.
Thank you,
Thank
Ashley.
you.
Ashley.
Thank you very much.
Okay, that is item A. Go to item B, Latham Plaza.
And, Mr. Chairman, if I may make a request that after item B, if you and the agency are okay, I'd like to add an item C, and just have kind received, 4 submissions for the RFQ. There is a committee of 3 of us, internal staff members. I am the only one from this building being a part of it. We've got folks from Parks involved as well. And we will be opening, we've already opened them. We're gonna be scoring them tomorrow. And then we will be coming back to you guys with a recommendation of the selected firm. We have 4 excellent firms that have submitted for this. I don't think there's a wrong candidate. We're really excited for this project. So I'm super happy to move forward on that. We just wanted to update you guys that we're opening those tomorrow. We had hoped it was gonna fall before this meeting, but unfortunately due to scheduling with procurement, it fell when it did, so. But that's all I got on the Lakeland Plaza update. Just wanted to kind of, does anybody have any questions on that process or?
If I remember right, we were gonna let them just come up with ideas.
Yes and no. We gave them where you guys have gotten with the previous consultant. And then we took the list of comments that the agency made, several months back and kind of put those in a list, and we all kind of approved and agreed, okay, these are the things we would like to see. And then we put those actually in the bid package. And so we had the drawings and the agency comments, and then the way we kind of worded it is whoever is selected will then come back before the agency a couple of times. They'll work with us on kind of revising that schematic design and then taking it to construction documents. So they're not necessarily starting from ground zero. They're gonna start from the foundation of what you guys already put all those years of work into, and then kind of fine tune it and tweak it to better fit the market conditions we're in now. And we'll go from there.
And we'll be able to see all of them, not just one you're recommending, or just one you're recommending. A reason that I asked is I just wanna know if they're all relatively the same subject type, or if they're completely different.
There are no, I can say this, there are no like drawings of this is what we wanna see you do. Like that's not included in the documents at all. None of them are gonna, put it bluntly, they're not gonna invest that much time and effort at this stage until they know they won the award. So they've given us their references, projects they've done. We checked references, we've looked at other projects, and that's kind of how we're basing our scoring on their, compatibility with what we want. But as far as seeing any drawings, none of them submitted anything.
I just didn't know if they were verbally describing what they like. I didn't know if it was like something like that. Okay.
Can you put a slide together of all the projects that they've done so we can visually see their stuff?
Like of all 4 of the preferred, who we ended up scoring highest.
I mean, I'd like to see them all. I don't know how much work that is, but.
Yeah, I'll check with we don't we don't do that normally.
Yeah,
Staff, like the
So
council.
how do we, what are we evaluating?
So staff always handles the evaluation
Okay.
of our kind of professional peers in these roles. And then if for some reason, when we bring to you, like candidate B is who we think, at that point we'll make some kind of document showing you what they submitted, who their references were, and kind of a memo on why staff collectively agreed that we felt this was the best way to go. If for some reason the agency does not agree, which that happens, that's fine, then we go back to the drawing board and then we would bring back the number 2, number 3.
Are they submitting like a vision statement or a description, or, I mean, like?
No,
what-
it's a binder, a book,
Okay.
of, most of it's boilerplate stuff like insurance, employees, like affidavits saying you work in the state.
Basic
Yeah.
criteria that a
Yep.
firm would submit at this point in time.
Okay.
They're not gonna
So we're not gonna get a
provide
sense of-
vision because they haven't had a chance to talk to us to find out what we really want. They're not gonna take,
Yeah.
some firms will take the chance and submit something,
Sure.
but normally not, because they're making a big assumption at that point in
Yeah.
time, and they will
Yeah, yeah.
Actually, all that stuff after tomorrow, it's all public record, so they can
Yeah.
come by your office and look at it,
Yep,
right?
anybody can get it.
You can always come by and look at it.
Yep.
Make a determination.
Thank you for saying that, Art, that's a great point. If anybody wants to, I've got all the work, and I would offer to send them digitally, but like they're literally this thick, they're not gonna go through email. But after tomorrow, it's from 10 to 11, once I'm back at the office, and anytime after that, if anybody wants to come and sit down, just shoot me a text, call me, email. I'm more than happy to make sure the conference room is empty and you can go through all 4 of them.
Only one at a time now.
Yes, that's another good point. Don't everybody come at the same time, we'll get in a lot of trouble.
So Taylor,
Yes.
is it the intent that you will present this at the next regular meeting in the way of making a recommendation?
No, because of the way
No,
all
it's
this fell.
Well,
We could not advertise.
This Monday or the following Monday?
It's next Monday.
Is it?
Like, our meeting is in,
5 days.
thank you, I can't do that, 5 days. So unfortunately, I kind of like talked about a little bit of that earlier, but I just, the way our workshops fell this month, unfortunately, no.
That was the fourth Monday.
Yep,
Yeah, I'm sorry, I just
I
want to
didn't
get it.
think
No, no,
no, that's fine, trust me.
I've got it on my calendar, I thought it was, you know.
We
it was
normally
like-
have a bigger break between
We
the
always
workshop.
usually think the last Monday of the month, but it's actually the fourth Monday.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
And when this one fell on, Monday was literally the first, so it put us,
Right.
kind of set us off a week, but so unfortunately, no. Just because due to advertising reasons, we weren't able to advertise that we were gonna be presenting that candidate, because we would have had to have that candidate in the packet when it was put online Monday.
So we won't act on this until the end of September.
Well, Heather and I had some debate on that. We are considering, at the workshop,
Good.
having that conversation then, and maybe we do a special call like we've done before, where the first 30 minutes or an hour is a special call meeting, so we can call it a regular meeting. So if the agency is comfortable, then we're able to make a vote right then and there and move forward. And then if not, you know, no harm, no foul, we're meeting anyways on that day. But we've kind of tossed that around internally.
And I personally, I would like to see us do that.
I think we would too. I think we just want to make sure everything goes smooth this week. We kind of wanted to, things have gone so smooth with this process so far, I don't think we wanted to get too excited, knock on wood. But yes, we would like to maybe then do that. So,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Any other questions?
Cool.
Okay, item C.
All right. So, everybody knows, we received no bids on our hardscape. We even sought out a few different contractors who also, for whatever reason, did not want the project. So Trevor and I were really scratching our heads. Trevor, our parks superintendent. So he and I kind of put our heads together and said, you know what, we both have project management experience. Let's just kind of act as the GC on this, and then we'll sub this out ourselves. Fortunately, our friends down at Clay County were so gracious to allow us to piggyback on a very large contract that they have. And we have been working with Bliss Products, who have Darrow Bike Racks as a direct subcontractor, who, gosh, however many years ago you guys first started looking at bike racks, that's where those images came from. With that being said, we got our quote today, finally, for the racks that can go in now. So obviously the one on the corner right here at Mr. Angelo's development, we're not gonna put a bike rack there right now because there's nowhere to put one. So Latham Plaza is left out of this because, again, with the intent of ripping all that out, we really do not want to spend that kind of money installing these racks. Oceanfront Park will be included in this, so we have our dolphins in this, we have our sharks that are on Second Avenue. We have got the surfboards behind the pavilion, that would be kind of different colors. And then we've got all of the plain hoop bike racks. With that being said, there's a couple of changes. Let's see if that'll come on. There's only one major kind of discrepancy between what we looked at about a year and a half ago to now. But before we approve anything, we want to make sure. So the dolphin is essentially the same exact identical dolphin that you guys chose back, gosh, 14, 15 months ago. So these will be 5 that are located around Oceanfront Park, and the intent when you guys chose this was that we already have the dolphin in the boy statue, and it is called Oceanfront Park. Anybody have any questions on that one?
I have one question. Are we gonna put anything on there to identify the fact that it's a bike rack?
So that's something we've talked about internally, trying to not only do that, but also make sure we do a very large media blast and putting it in the Beaches Leader, putting it on social media, putting it on the website, putting it on all the bulletins around City Hall.
Well, they're gonna be 5 right next to
mean, we have over here this parking lot,
Yep.
over by Ritz, people walk by there all the time and have no idea there's bike racks.
Yep.
They just have some sort of
Yep.
architecture.
And those do not look, I mean, you're absolutely right. I didn't know those were bike racks until you pointed it out. I mean, so we wanna make sure we put something there that's identifying and marking this as, hey, this is bike parking, but then taking that a step further and also putting it out there, like I said, via social media and even print media to try to kind of say, hey, come check out our new bike racks, take a picture, tag us, whatever, that kind of stuff.
I mean, even if it's just a placard that's,
Yep.
in the concrete or a sign that says bike rack.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, we're going to do something that make sure. Because we don't want to see these get installed like the ones you said down there near Ritz, and then nobody uses them because they think it's piece of art.
You can even make it like, City of Jacksonville Beach is not responsible for your unlocked bike.
Yeah. I know, we joked about finding like,
A dummy bike to put on.
that's what we joked about, we finding like an old bike and just chaining one up there for a
I
couple
want a
weeks,
new
like,
bike, so I'll just put my old one on.
put your bikes here. These were the exact surfboards we chose. And rather than doing a bunch of different sizes, we talked about doing different colors, so it's not just like 6 orange surfboards in a row. So we'll do kind of some color variation there. Just
Are we putting our logo in the circle?
we didn't plan to. That is another question I have.
I don't know if it'll work where we're planning on putting these, cause it's up in that alleyway, so I'm not sure the logo,
He's meaning in the center of the.
in the center of
surfboard.
the surfboard.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
not the
think you
regular.
are.
The circle.
Yeah, we didn't talk about it.
That was originally what we wanted to do to match the other round ones. Remember the big
Right.
rounds that were gonna.
Yeah, that was on a diff. Yeah. But we can check on that.
At least get a sticker.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Could we?
Or a minimum, just
I mean, like a vinyl.
the
That
light
cricket, we'll just cricket it out, it's okay.
It's not the worst.
Use a
Trying to
cricket.
go off.
You got this. You got that one.
Again, these are also the same ones that we chose. These aren't different. These are the ones that are on Second Ave North. Francis, they're right in front of you, so I hope you like them. Not much to it, pretty self-explanatory on these. This one. So the hoop we chose was more circular. Most of the bike rack manufacturers have gone to this more vertical hoop shape because it's more, user-friendly, it's easier to fit in spaces, it's not as wide, it's not as bulky. This is what they recommended. I told them that, we weren't ready to sign off on that until you guys saw these hoop racks first. So I will turn to you guys for some discussion. See, here's kind of, again, another more plain drawing of what they look like.
This would be the replacement of our round ones,
Yeah.
that have logo in them.
No, we're still gonna have logo racks. These are just, we had the plain round ones, and then we had talked about putting logo racks on the ends of like
To match
those
them.
long rows, and then
Yeah.
so rather than those, they would be these, and then yes, there would be the logo on the end caps of these versus the perfect circle.
Yeah, I like that. I think the circle will circle all the way through, don't you guys?
Yeah. That would look weird.
Because if you have a whole bunch of views and then you have a circle. in
No,
the-
there won't be circles at all.
No, the logo can go in this one.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
The logo could go in that shape.
Yes, I'm
Yes.
sorry. Yes, the logos would also go
Yeah,
in
it can.
these.
Okay, okay.
That makes more sense.
Yeah,
I
it's
can
just the
get that.
outside shape.
As long as the whole row is.
It will be
Yeah.
uniform.
Yeah.
We're not gonna make it look
Yeah.
stupid, I promise.
You don't want like 5 different,
Same fabrics,
Yes.
And
metal and.
What finish?
So these all are going to be like a galvanized steel, and then they were going to powder dip them versus paint, because the powder dip is more durable to
Right.
the salty air versus paint.
Do these go to different heights? Cause we
not black.
Oh, I'll do it. Oh, we are.
Yeah, but I'm like,
Well, it's
Picking black,
like
don't
urban
worry.
city.
Yeah.
yeah.
Here, I'll go to this page.
Black Sunday.
No color, there.
There you go.
Jeff,
Step on it.
Jeff, what do you have against black?
So Taylor,
Yes, sir.
and I'm not sure exactly where all these are actually
Not
going.
blank, but not
No, I know, I've got the book and I have to pull the book out and look at it again,
Sure.
but how does that coordinate with what's happening in the, on First Street with all of the potential paver?
We've
rework?
taken all that into consideration.
Yeah.
Yes, Heather and I were, I mean, not Heather, my gosh, Trevor and I were out for probably 3 hours one day with all of the books and kind of scouting, okay, we've got this construction project, we have these going here. Much of First Street, we're not gonna put these massive racks in yet. You'll see a lot of them kind of in more the street end where we're not gonna be disrupting stuff, but in any of the areas where we have projects slated, construction, like Latham Plaza, for example, and then on First Street, which we've got, the urban trail stuff, we're trying to be mindful of that, so,
Right, thank you.
We're
absolutely.
gonna put in as many as we can now,
Yeah,
with the
right,
current
and I
conditions out
appreciate
there,
that. It's
yeah.
just-
Knowing that we're gonna add more later.
I potentially see
65,
a
70?
large project on First Street trying to redo those pavers and stuff and all the bollards down through there.
Yeah,
It
Definitely.
just desperately needs help right now.
yeah.
But
So,
now Third Avenue next to the Ritz, didn't we have an art one there?
We did not, but we did have these, we had 6 of these, and then it was a total of 8 because the 2 bookends were the logo.
Okay.
And so those will go right there at the Ritz. Yeah, sort of between, we've got the Metropolitan here, Ritz here. There's literally like a chunk up off the sidewalk where there was always supposed to be, but it's kind of shifted now. We're actually gonna have, that's the only place we're gonna have to do some site work. We're gonna have to pour some concrete just because we wanna make sure we have a really stable foundation. And then that'll be these in a nice clean line.
so if I remember right, Dennis was saying he had some extra round ones, full hole or whatever, target ones, we had some storage. If we're not gonna be placing all of the ones that we are, all the areas, are we getting those and putting them in his storage until those projects are done, or are we going to be part of our order now because we're not placing all of our order now?
Both. So these we'll probably go ahead and get because these are relatively straightforward. As far as the artistic ones, like we don't have more dolphins going somewhere. So we're ordering all of our dolphins, all of our sharks, all of our surfboards. The only things we're not ordering right now are the waves because they are so massive, and to be honest, we just don't have anywhere to put them.
That's what I was wondering.
So-
So we are gonna amend some kind of, we'll have to do it again.
Yeah, well, the wave ones, since they're at the pier parking lot, those will be part of that project.
Yeah,
that's
So we're
fine.
just gonna have to put those on pause for now.
Yep.
Right.
But like I said, luckily the rest of the artistic ones, they are all grouped together in their respective areas, and so they're pretty easy to go ahead and order all of them and get them installed, minus weights. And then, trash cans. We had chosen some cedar-sided trash cans that had a little bit of a different lid. As fate would have it, those don't exist anymore. So we scoured the internet as well as warehouses to figure out who has what trash cans in stock, because some of my lead time quotes we got were 6 to 8 months on some of these trash cans. These were the most similar to what we originally chose, and those cedar look planks on the side are almost the same wood stuff the playground is made out of, so it's more durable and it's gonna last. And so this would be from Bliss, and then as well as, staff, probably our recommendation on what to use in place of the original. That's kind of a couple of angles, and we just wanted to get your thoughts on the garbage cans.
The only thing they wanted was to make sure that it was easy to remove said bins to clean, so they could just take the bin out, dump it, and put it right back in.
Yep, and so with these, it comes out of one of these sides. It's like a little door that they can, whoever does that will have a little key, and they just open it, tip it out, pull the bag, put it back in.
What's the function of the handle looking thing?
I believe that is how they sort of like set the metal down on it. I'm not really sure.
It's a bike rack.
It'll do that.
So it's a double duty, it looks like something. I'm not
thought they were gonna pick and choose because they said that there are some locations that people throw the trash right there.
And I do wanna point out, this all started too back when, Public Works was spearheading this part of the project, and so now that's kinda shifted. Parks was like, hey, we deal with more of the above ground, pretty, as Dennis calls it, and so now Parks has stepped in. And so I think the functionality of it now is probably a little bit different too, than what, 2 years ago it was, or a year and a half ago.
And in my opinion, I do like the original ones, because they're easy to repair, what have you as well. But if we were going to have some that replace them or need to be consistent, I like having them stay in shape. I like that they have some walkability to them. I'm fine with them personally, but
Who's responsible for the cans and the area around the cans? Is that Public Works, is that Parks, is that somebody else? I mean, like, after a festival, there's gonna be trash all over around that can.
Yeah.
Who's gonna make sure that stuff gets picked up?
So right now, it's always been Public Works. At the meeting Monday, that downtown maintenance provision will allow us to have more funding to then be able to fund making sure these are handled a little bit differently, because this kind of technically falls under maintenance. And at that point, I believe Parks is stepping in, and they're gonna be the ones handling, like I said, all the out of the ground stuff, the bike racks, beams, the seating, bollards. That will all come over now on us and Parks.
So Parks is gonna take responsibility for policing around these cans.
I'm not comfortable answering that.
I think we need an answer to that. Or if we need to contract with someone who does that stuff.
I only say that because Parks isn't here, I don't speak for them. That's a good question.
The city has a contract with somebody that goes out and
Right.
collects garbage on a almost daily basis along the beach areas and so forth, right?
And Parks handles that contract.
Well, on the beach, it's parks,
Yeah.
but I think the ones downtown and on the pier, it's Public Works. But that's, again, just one of those things we're trying to figure out as we put together this maintenance plan is, who's on first and who's doing what. But if you guys remember, when we talked about the trash cans and the ones that Art likes, they're pretty big, and there were a lot of locations where those couldn't fit and still have proper access on the sidewalk and maybe ADA compliance and stuff like that. So we have to have some smaller ones in a lot of locations for those reasons. But I think the bigger ones that are on the beach and then along the boardwalk, those, I think we were gonna keep those for now. But so these will go more like along First Street and the avenues and Second, where we don't have as much space to put trash cans.
From what I've seen in the past, at the end zones in particular is where most of the trash gets dumped, and
Right,
you
folks
need
at the
bigger
beach.
bins and things to be able to take the kind of trash that comes
They are
off
bigger,
the
yeah.
beach and so forth. Or at the end of the day, when we're in the downtown area, it needs to be something that aesthetically is a little bit nicer.
Right,
And that,
that's the
I
goal.
would agree that this kind of falls into that category.
Yeah, that's our thought exactly.
I just want to plant the seed,
Yeah.
and we'll see what happens with this.
And that's all on those.
Okay,
estimated time of delivery.
Bike racks,
We have that.
actually, yeah, so bike racks are planned now. There are certain things we can amend agendas for and certain things we cannot. Budget modifications are one of those beautiful things we are allowed to amend the agenda for. So with consensus from the agency, we would like to get the quote printed, bring that to you guys Monday, add that and amend the agenda, and go ahead and get the funding for the bike racks now, so that we can get that before council and get those ordered, because they said we're looking at 6 to 8 weeks from order to install.
is anybody against her doing that? It's unanimous.
Got it. Thank you. All right. Awesome. Thank you guys.
Okay, any other old business?
question, has the 90% meeting for, the project south of here been scheduled?
Not yet. We have an internal meeting on the 24th with the engineers, Heather, myself, Dennis, all their crew. It's for 3 hours, and we're still trying to figure out what we're gonna do. No, I'm kidding. But it's gonna be a good long one, and that is gonna be for us to review those 90% drawings. And then tentatively, it's gonna be, I think they were talking the second week of September. But no, they have not officially
Okay.
put that out. We'll get that out.
As soon as we have that date, we'll let you guys know.
And I was noticing on their website, which they've touted, you go to find out all about the project, when they talk about no mention of an upcoming third. So I think they need to update that because there's a lot of people, I know, going to look at that.
Okay.
Any other old business? New business?
All right. So the first thing is, well, the only thing is this downtown plan amendment. This is very similar to the South End amendment you guys did in 2017, where we're not touching the plan itself. That was done, you know, the Shepherd Group organized and consolidated that. This is just to add a provision that things that the CRA is funding and has funded in the past, we will now be able to maintain. The state statute changed, I think it was right around that 17 memo on maintenance within CRA districts. And so we are now allowed to maintain a lot more than we were when CRAs were created. So yeah, this is just for your discussion, comments, questions, and then hopefully we can get this adopted and then also get this before council prior to fiscal year 23.
Any questions?
I'm happy to maintain whatever we
We would be too.
I think we need to do this because if we're trying to get to, as I've heard described before, Disney-esque type quality, we've got to be able to do this.
Who would ever say something crazy like that?
You didn't say that. Which one of you said it?
Agreed. Okay, well then we'll get this, like I said, on an agenda, get this amendment taken care of, and then we've already got a placeholder on a council agenda
I think so.
for, we have so many placeholders for these upcoming agendas, to get council to approve this, and then like I said, the goal is for October 1st, so when we start our new fiscal year, we are not having to scratch our heads figuring out who's maintaining what and who's funding it. It will all come through the CRA. But that is our goal.
No questions?
Ah.
Okay. Any more new business?
Yes, so, oh wait, no, that's not me, sorry. I got excited.
All right. Items for discussion.
All right, this is something we've talked about for a while. We talked about marketing, brochures. Unfortunately, our communications manager was out for about, gosh, almost 6 weeks. So we've kind of laid off of him for a little while, but he has worked very hard with me to take the data from the market analysis, some census data, and then we have started putting together a brochure that we're gonna have professionally printed. That's why we increased the promotional activities in downtown budget. And we want to have something that when we go to different conferences or events or networking, different speaking engagements, even you guys, quite frankly, we have a nice magazine that we can take and we can hand to someone, and they don't have to look at it right then, but later when they flip through, it's something that sort of encompasses who we are, what we already have, and what we're working towards. So with that being said, here's where we're at this time. So this is a very rough draft. He's got a couple of pages. I think he's got 7 or 8 done. Obviously, cover page. There'll be a section kind of about the CRA that explains when someone gets this book that they don't know what a CRA is. It just talks about the creation, what our intent is, where our downtown district is. This is not our map. Jacob is still working on a, sort of pretty map, if you will, where we're gonna highlight points of interest in our downtown, whether it be development, restaurants, retail, new businesses, and then there'll be kind of a numbered key. And I don't know if you can tell here on the bottom, right down here, it's got the URL to get to our section of the city website as well, on all the pages. And so this is where we'll feature different, so we'll have Hungry, and then we're going to kind of rotate this out every couple of months, but we'll feature restaurants and what to try, and why we think it's, a great thing to do. And then on the back side of this page, they're not in this document yet, but when you flip over in the magazine, we're gonna list all of our dining, because we don't want to just feature somebody and then kind of ignore the rest. So we'll have a feature for a few months and then list everyone else on the back.
Are we only,
Oop,
go ahead.
no, you're fine.
You were answering the question right there. I was gonna ask if we're only doing dining.
No. No, so then, Thursday,
refreshing.
we're gonna feature somewhere that, has got a really good bar and cool cocktails and different drink specials. And again, there'll be a page added in between this and the next that covers all of our bars. Shopping, we thought this was a really good opportunity. We always talk about the cottages that do not feel like they're a part of downtown, and we felt like this would be a really good first way to kind of extend that arm to remind people they are a part of the downtown district, they are a part of the CRA. You need to shop, go down here. And it's hard to read, but we also want here links like their social media pages and how you can get to them.
I hate how the word
city-sponsored events with the amount of attendees. They even keep track of, out of town versus in town. And so we'll include all those numbers as well, so they can see, on 15 Saturdays a month, there's gonna be 70,000 people migrating in. And then we just talked about like research and planning and, referencing that market analysis and how every so often we'll update all of our data and continue to do research and planning on how the market will change, as far as developing. And then why Jack Beach? We talked about the population, the median home value, median household income, and then we'll also be expanding on this with a little more data from the census. And then this next section after this will kind of be that stuff we talked about where we have the pretty stuff and all these great things we have, but developers at the end of the day are going to want to see the hard numbers. So those will kind of come behind this on how much investment we've had in the last 5 years and things like that.
So the small text at the top, it then says Jacksonville Beach CRA, is that on every, this is the first page I noticed it.
Yeah, it's on.
Oh, okay. Alright, and then on this one,
Yep.
yeah, it just looks strange that, again, it's like we have a 2-inch margin on the left and a 1/2-inch margin on the right, so it looks weird.
Got it.
And then the center photo kind of goes against the format you had on every other page, so it should either be the full width or
Okay.
left align. Yeah, it needs to match that.
Got it.
Sorry.
No?
Taylor, from the standpoint of why Jack's Beach, we need to describe a little bit what is the CRA downtown. Because, I think you can give some information about all of Jack's Beach, but then again, if this is CRA related, we need to define what's the CRA area
Why
specifically.
downtown?
That's,
Yeah, and then also maybe if what we're specifically calling downtown,
Yeah.
what is the, where is that area and identify that.
I thought that was the very first page.
It is.
Go to the very first page, I thought that's,
Yeah.
and it describes what we're, it even has the address of the,
Yeah.
even has the streets.
Well, and I was thinking it more in a map kind of form
Well,
because
that's right here.
points, well,
It has to be our map.
I'm looking at that as being points of interest. I was looking at a map, what's an aerial view or something of the downtown that's truly the CRA.
That's what they're making. She said that they're making one just for down area to do the highlights of our downtown area. That's what she was saying.
Well, I heard it a little bit differently, that they were doing points of interest.
For downtown.
Right.
For
Yeah, Francis is
For
right.
downtown.
For downtown only or
Yep.
all of
Downtown.
Jack's Beach?
No. This is just for the CRA district. This points of interest is going to be just the CRA boundaries. It's going to outline those. Like I said, this was just a template map.
Should we have a hotel section?
We are working on that. Hold on, I've got Jacob's notes. He is adding a stay section.
Okay.
We are adding, one of the fun pages, and we kind of borrowed this from some friends in another community. They had their mayor do a perfect day in their city. So we talked to the mayor, we're actually meeting with her Friday, and one of the sections will be the mayor's itinerary, and it'll be like 8 a.m., 10 a.m., noon, and it'll feature different activities like surfing on the beach or, having a drink in the afternoon, different places you would go. Again, we're trying to balance the feel-good stuff
Yeah.
because that is what draws people, but also with the hard data. So there'll be that section, and then every couple of months or every year, whenever we update, there'll also be a section called, Be Inspired, and like the Mark Angelo property right here, what inspired him to build that, and kind of interviewing other developers and what drew them to develop in our downtown, and adding that as a page as well.
Cool.
Taylor, are we gonna just do the restaurants in the downtown area or all of the CRA area?
All of the CRA downtown,
As opposed to South Beach.
yeah.
is there a section for what's coming? You know, when I say what's coming, I talk about the future development.
Yeah, so
You know,
one of
things
the,
that the CRA is doing, whether it's
Sure.
bike racks, it's, you know, the downtown redevelopment areas.
yeah. So after the YJAX Beach page, that kind of next page, we're gonna go into some more of those hard numbers and say, okay, in this fiscal year, we're looking at this amount of investment, and, you know, the CRA, we've invested these amount of public dollars. So absolutely, that's important.
Show them our cool graph.
You got it.
A lot of those.
The separate one or the one where they're together?
Yeah, just the bottom.
But, you know, more than anything with this, we wanted to obviously get comments, so I appreciate those. And then, most importantly, make sure you guys are okay with the direction we're moving with
Yeah,
this.
that's good.
I love the idea, I love the magazine.
Yeah, okay,
And I know you don't have a process for updating, so I'm not stressed about that.
yeah,
Makes me so
I
happy.
like procedure.
Okay, any other items for discussion?
And if y'all think of something on this, seriously, or a restaurant, or something comes to mind that you forgot in this meeting, please, I mean, email me, text me, call me, let me know. We're always open to suggestions on this, because, you know, you guys have been invested longer than myself or the communications manager have, so there are gonna be stories and buildings and things that we're not thinking of that you guys will. So please, feel free to keep us in the loop and give us ideas.
Well, as long as it evenly rotates throughout the list of all businesses.
Yeah. And at the hospitality meetings that the mayor hosts about quarterly now, we'll also make sure to continue updating folks there. And then I'll be really excited to, like, when we get our first issue, be like, okay, I know you guys thought we were bluffing. Here it is. We really did this, I promise. So we'll make sure to keep the businesses in the loop.
Francis? Okay, something?
I'm done with this.
I'm
Items for
done.
discussion?
So I'm sure I'm not the only person who received the emails about our old memorial. And I know there's other items on our staff report as well that we didn't really get to review last time. So can you just give us an update as to where certain things are, where our committee is? Because we tasked them with
Yeah.
that section as well as the whole entrance. So-
Absolutely. So the memorial as of today has been demolished. Well, it's not a memorial, the, whatever you want to call that, is gone. They have cleaned it out, they have leveled, when I came to this meeting, they were in the process of leveling it and getting a smooth surface. So Parks is gonna go in with some of the and some low-lying, relatively easy vegetation that will be easy to relocate. The art committee has been tasked with and agreed that this needs to be the first major installation in fiscal year '23. At their first meeting, they were tossing around a lot of ideas, talking about trying to capture what makes Jack's Beach special, but then also paying, you know, tribute to the history and what Jack's Beach was and how it's evolved over time, and trying to keep natural elements and something that visitors can see, touch, feel, sit. There was a lot that went into that. Do they have a specific art installation idea yet? No, they do not. But that is the first one they are working on.
Are they going to incorporate it with the whole, because I remember we were talking about doing a whole visual, are they gonna try to incorporate the whole thing, or just gonna focus on the one area, or have they been tasked or given?
So their
approve something, we can actually maintain the fence, we can't until that's done.
Gotcha.
But the city could have done that.
Right.
So, and it comes out of general fund, and the way the CRA maintenance works, because of how it was initially worded, and because of how the state statute originally intended CRA maintenance to go, is that any maintenance over what would be standard citywide. So even with the flower beds, for example, we remulch the entire city. So therefore, we cannot pay for that because it's not considered elevated.
Right.
We literally couldn't pay to trim the trees because we pay to trim trees citywide. The second trimming we could fund, but the money was not in the parks budget for tree trimming to even do the necessary requirements to get our trees trimmed where they needed to be. So that is why this downtown maintenance amendment is critical, quite frankly.
All right.
And then the bollards are,
Yeah, which
A
we're
hot mess.
holding it, we got that.
I have a little concern about that area we're talking about. I agree, it needs to be fixed up.
okay,
It's an eyesore.
sure,
But you gotta remember, they used to have all those little monuments out there before,
Mhm.
and it literally got to the point where people forgot they were there and they're overgrown.
okay,
And that was like 20 years ago.
sure,
We need to make sure if we put something there, it's gotta be something that's gonna draw people there, or
yeah,
if nothing else, than just landscape.
okay,
Because, you know, last thing I wanna do is put like another little statue that sits there that kinda goes away.
yeah, absolutely,
So I guess when these, our group is looking at all this stuff, and we're taking that into account.
yep.
I mean,
And then I think the maintenance component especially, because the art committee has already identified that we don't need to just put installations in, there has to be a maintenance program that follows. And then that will become a part of that, document Trevor and I made a couple months ago, that will follow this, plan amendment, where we'll add whatever maintenance is necessary, and then it becomes a document we review annually, just like we do the budget. We check our maintenance plan, if we need to increase, add, and edit, but absolutely, we need to make sure that anything we're putting in has the funding and capability to be maintained to that elevated standard that we always intended for it to be.
I have one last thing, and it's gonna make me sound, I don't know, neutral is not the right word, but here's my question.
Mhm.
So, of all the things that are happening downtown and events that, possibly things moving downtown that we might or may not be allowed to visit and be a part of, said grand openings or, hey, this is what's happening, what have you. Do you foresee, or I guess the first question is, do you foresee us actually being able to go out in public as a group to like witness the park? And anything at all, that downtown area? Anything
We were able to do that.
Do you mean like,
Yeah.
right?
Let me
We
ask,
can be together, we just can't talk.
Well, I reason I asked you,
Yeah.
this is a weird question. So, we
There's
got
a
a logo,
context.
we got a
There's
logo,
context.
are we gonna get little shirts?
yes,
So we can be out like little like posse of CRA
Yes.
people saying,
just
hey,
like council does, yes,
the city did this.
yes.
I knew you were a giggle, but like, I'm just curious.
Listen, you
You were in
have,
my office the other day, and you saw that I had my skateboard up on my wall.
she does, she's very proud.
once we have an idea, then we'll be
Oh,
like,
she's
do you
not
like
yet.
it?
No, I have a
What
cricket.
size? I got it.
We
You
ordered
just
them
bring those
Monday.
to the workshops, okay? Bring the cricket. We'll make some shirts.
Sorry, Art, I'm getting offline.
Remind me again, what's going into the spot where the car wash is, South Deck?
That is De Condell's. That is a burger joint out of Gainesville, Florida.
When are they gonna knock all this stuff down? Do we know?
I'm not sure. They've got a building permit. I'm pretty sure it's approved, so
It
we're
is.
just getting stuff ready.
They're gonna raise the BBs.
You're gonna, no. Yes.
Slowest private.
They have a fence around it now, and
Oh,
I'm
they do?
super excited
Yep.
because that means that there's no more just people sitting in the lot, and it means that there's gonna be some serious construction and like when you normally, well, unless you
As
talk.
soon as they have any permit, you will know. I
Yes,
promise.
as soon as the,
Oh, they did their
I said
variance
that.
application.
Did
Yes.
they?
Yep.
I just say that, I just said, when you see a fence, it means something's gonna happen, but then if you think about right here, with this one lot right on the board
Yeah.
lot, that's
Oh,
missing.
yeah.
So I guess that statement's wrong, but
They are actively
I'm hopeful.
pursuing, I believe they're on the Board of Adjustment for October. They have a variance application in right now. To get some variance on some issues and then, yeah.
I will look at it.
Okay, any other items for discussion?
Can I just, two quick comments?
Sure.
One is, the other day, city council did approve the, I'll call it the gallery project that we looked at from an R&D point of view. And they approved it, with all the stipulations coming from the CRA as well as from the planning commission. And so that has been approved and, I assume is gonna move forward at some point in time.
What project are you talking about?
The gallery where, Hoku, that whole
Yeah,
block.
Art
that
wasn't
we-
here.
I'm sorry, you weren't here at the
You're-
last
It was
meeting.
4 phases to build over there.
Yeah,
Hoku being the first phase.
yeah.
Okay.
And they're doing that lot between Lynch's and B's.
They're good at that. They say coffee shop.
Yeah.
They do make that a coffee shop, but I don't know if it will be a coffee shop.
So that's all that in-house stuff?
Yes.
And then, yeah, and then they're gonna build a parking lot to support it, and then they'll do phase 3 and 4 later. And they are going to confirm that they fit within our parameters, not all B bars. It's going to be within our CRA plan.
Mhm.
Okay.
I think it's a good addition to the downtown. Hopefully we'll see all of those spaces move forward very quickly.
And Erie made sure that they have to come to us between every single phase.
No, I just said staff.
Us.
needs to-
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Them.
which they would
Us.
anyway.
Us, I
but
count
yeah.
us as
Yeah.
us.
But the last 2 phases are 10 years out, according to.
Or
the-
they so or sooner, depending
Yeah.
on
And then that's,
incentive plans.
Yeah, I agree.
Sorry.
That's one thing you said you
What was
did.
it?
yeah, the other comment I just wanted to make was that, it was interesting sitting in the city council meeting the other night and listening to the discussion about the, volunteer life-saving corps issues that the city's dealing with. But, there came some discussion about, it was presented by council, outside council, that the, disposition of the property as well as the building, I believe, of the, Red Cross, it was, limited as to what could be done because of CRA state statutes. And, the specifics of that we'll have to get from staff, but it was interesting that somehow the CRA was potentially getting pulled into this based on what the outside council was saying. So I just wanted to point that out. I was surprised when I heard the conversation the other night, but, I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Heather.
Well, it just, what it boils down to is that property, the city doesn't currently own it, we have an interest in it. And the way the statute reads is that if the city owns or has any interest in a property, then that statute, that CRA statute applies.
Yep.
Which is a similar process that we had to go through and comply with the statute to sell those lots in the south end.
Yep.
So I think he was just making a statement that it's not as simple as like, we have this property, we're gonna sell it, but there's other things that get triggered because it's in the CRA and the city has an interest. So it's worth listening to the, I'm not sure when that conversation started in the council
2 hours.
meeting, but
3 hours.
at least an hour and a half